What would you do if the people you trusted most, your own family, casually robbed your child of her future? Imagine scraping together every dime, working night shifts and double shifts, just to give your daughter a shot at a better life, only to find out your sister spent that money on roller coasters and mouse ears in Disneyland. This is the story of how I learned that some betrayals don't come with warning signs, they come with fake smiles and vacation selfies. And how I decided, once and for all, to fight for my daughter's future, even if it meant standing against the people who were supposed to stand with me. The living room smelled faintly of fried onions and coffee, the scent of my second job clinging to me like guilt I couldn't wash off. My name is Megan Caldwell, and I work double shifts at a diner in Charlotte, North Carolina. I do it all for my daughter, Lily, 10 years old, brighter than any sunrise I've ever seen. But tonight, none of that felt like enough. Ashley, my younger sister, was lounging on my couch, flipping through her phone like she hadn't just detonated my world. "So you're telling me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "that the money I gave you for Lily's school fund, you spent it on Disneyland?" Ashley looked up with a smirk like I'd just asked if water was wet. "Oh my God, Meg, it was only $500, and the kids needed a break. We all did. It's been a rough year." My legs buckled before my pride did, so I sat down. "That money was for Lily's application fee to Brookdale. You knew that." Ashley shrugged like it was a math error, not a betrayal. "She's 10. Why stress her out with all that prep school crap? Public school was good enough for us." "She's not us," I whispered, though my voice shook. "She's better. She deserves better." Ashley's smile turned sharp. "Deserves?" she echoed. "You think Lily deserves Brookdale more than my boys deserve a childhood?" Wow, Meg. That one word, deserves, hit harder than a slap. I'd used it with pride, with hope. Hearing it spit back at me felt like watching someone drown your dreams in sarcasm. I didn't even realize I was crying until I saw the teardrop hit the Brookdale Academy flyer still pinned to the fridge. The colors blurred as the paper wilted slightly, like it knew the dream was dissolving. Ashley leaned back, completely unbothered. "You always act like you're better than the rest of us because you work 2 jobs. News flash, Meg, everyone's struggling." I looked at her, and for the first time I saw her not as my sister, but as a wall between Lily and everything I'd been fighting for. She stood up, brushing crumbs off her jeans like we were done. "If you're so obsessed with fancy schools, get another job. Don't come crying to me." She left without closing the door, the winter air slapping into the room behind her like a final insult. I sat there frozen, replaying every sleepless night, every penny counted, every extra shift taken, and the look on Lily's face when I'd told her Brookdale could be real. And now, it wasn't, because family took that from her, or so they thought, but they don't know who they're up against. Lily didn't ask me why I was late. She never does. I found her at her little desk, knees tucked up to her chest, hair tied back with the blue ribbon I gave her on her first day of 3rd grade. The ribbon's faded now, kind of like me. "Hey, baby," I said softly, easing into the room. "How's homework?" She spun around, face lighting up the way only kids can still manage. "I finished early so I could work on my Brookdale essay." My throat closed up. I nodded but couldn't trust myself to speak. Brookdale Academy's brochure was spread across her desk, creased from being opened 100 times, pages dog-eared, highlighter trails everywhere. She'd drawn little hearts next to the library pictures, circled the science lab, wrote her name in the margins like she was already a student. "I started my list of ideas," she went on, holding up a notebook with sparkly stars on the cover. "I want to write about how I helped organize the community cleanup day and why science is my favorite subject. I even wrote a joke about frogs. Want to hear it?" I smiled through the pain blooming in my chest. "Of course. What do frogs wear on their feet?" "I don't know what." "Open-toed shoes?" She cracked up before I could even react. Her laugh filled the room like sunlight, and just for a second I let myself laugh too. Then my eyes fell to the bottom corner of the brochure. The tuition amount. I looked away fast. She didn't notice. "Do you think they'll like my joke?" she asked, curling her legs beneath her. I forced myself to sound normal. "They'll love it. How could they not?" After tucking her into bed, I lingered at the doorway longer than usual, watching her trace shapes onto the ceiling with a flashlight, whispering ideas to herself like the essay was already writing itself in dreams. I tiptoed back to her desk and picked up the brochure. Brookdale Academy, where potential becomes promise. I traced the embossed seal with my finger and whispered, "I will find a way, Lily. I don't care if I have to clean every office in Charlotte." Back in the kitchen, I flipped open my beat-up laptop, the one I'd rescued from a yard sale 3 years ago. Its screen flickered to life after 2 tries. I started searching. Alternate funding for private school, North Carolina scholarships, help for single moms' educational support. Hours passed. Most sites led to dead ends or financial thresholds that we exceeded by just a sliver. Not poor enough to qualify, not rich enough to afford. The worst kind of middle. Still, I bookmarked a few promising links, made a list, wrote down contact numbers. I even found a mention of a scholarship Brookdale partnered with, a state initiative tied to test scores. Test scores, I whispered, remembering the practice exams Lily had aced for fun, the ones she'd insisted on timing herself for. A spark flickered. I didn't know how yet, but maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. The weight of the day caught up with me all at once. My legs ached, my back felt like splintered wood, and my stomach had been empty since lunch. I sat at the kitchen table and rested my head on my arms. I didn't cry. Not yet. Because even though Ashley had stolen that money and Mom would probably defend her like always, Lily didn't need me to fall apart. She needed me to figure it out. I just didn't know how deep this betrayal ran. Not yet. The bell over the diner door jingled as I stepped out onto the back stoop, apron still tied around my waist, the smell of hash browns and coffee clinging to my skin. It was the first time I'd sat down all morning. My feet throbbed inside cheap sneakers, and my eyes burned from too little sleep. But it was quiet here. The kind of quiet that lets your thoughts whisper things you've tried not to hear. Jasmine slid out beside me, 2 steaming styrofoam cups in hand. She offered one with a smirk. "You looked like you needed rescue." I smiled faintly, wrapping my hands around the cup. "From life? Yeah, that checks out." Jasmine had worked at the diner longer than I had. She was quick-witted and kind in a no-nonsense way, the kind of person who noticed everything but never pried, unless she sensed you needed it. She lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and then eyed me carefully. "You've been quieter than usual. Something going on." I hesitated, but the words were already rising like steam from my coffee. "I saved up $500, I said. "Not for me, for my daughter's school application. I gave it to my sister, Ashley, because she said she needed help with bills." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, she didn't use it for bills." I nodded slowly. "Disneyland, for her kids, the whole thing. Like my daughter's dream didn't matter." Jasmine muttered something under her breath that wasn't YouTube-friendly and shook her head. I blinked fast. "I don't even care about the money, not really. I promised Lily I'd try. I told her we'd find a way. And now I have nothing to give her but more excuses." She exhaled a stream of smoke into the cold air and leaned against the brick wall. "Have you looked into crowdfunding? Like GoFundMe or that school support site, Class Spring or something?" My stomach twisted. "I've thought about it, but I don't want to put my family out there. It feels humiliating." Jasmine turned to face me fully. "You think it's humiliating to ask for help? Because I think what your sister did is a whole lot worse. You're not asking for yourself, you're fighting for your kid. That's not shameful, Megan, that's brave." Her words hit deeper than I expected. Brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt like I was barely keeping the floor from falling out beneath me. Still, I tucked that thought away. Jasmine sipped her coffee. "There are also state grants. Some private schools have connections with public programs, especially for kids who test high. Have you checked if Brookdale does?" I blinked. "No, not yet. I didn't think Lily's scores would be enough to qualify." Jasmine gave me a pointed look. "Megan, your kid is writing essays for fun, and didn't she help organize the library book drive?" "She did. She even made posters." "That girl is going places. Your job is to make sure she gets there, even if you have to crawl through broken glass to do it." I let out a breath that sounded a little like a laugh, a little like a sob. Jasmine had a way of boiling things down to their truth. "You know, sometimes I think if I had half the support I give everyone else, maybe I'd be somewhere else by now." She stubbed out her cigarette and tossed the butt in the tin can on the step. "Then start by giving it to yourself. No one's coming to save us, Megan, but we can save ourselves and our kids if we stop pretending we have to carry shame that doesn't belong to us." I nodded slowly. The bell jingled again, calling us back to another lunch rush, another round of bottomless coffee and pie slices, but something in me shifted as I stood. For the first time in days, I didn't feel completely alone. It happened in the smallest moment. No dramatic music. No lightning strike. Just me standing in our tiny kitchen after another 10-hour shift, hands raw from dish soap, hair twisted up with a pencil, staring at the blinking light on the answering machine like it might bite. 3 missed calls. One from the bank. One from Jasmine asking about Lily's art project. And one from a number I didn't recognize. I pressed play anyway. "Hello, this is Marcia Linwood from Brookdale Academy," the voice began, chipper but warm. "I'm calling regarding Lily Caldwell's entrance assessments. I'd love to speak with her guardian about her scores and the scholarship board's interest in her application. Please call us back at your earliest convenience." I froze. No, I didn't hear that right. I played it again. And again. By the third time, the words made sense, but they didn't feel real. Lily Caldwell entrance assessments, top 1% scholarship board's interest. I dropped the sponge into the sink, water sloshing over my shoes. My hands trembled as I grabbed the phone and dialed the number, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the ring. A receptionist transferred me. Then a soft-spoken woman came on the line. "Mrs. Caldwell, I'm so glad you called. I wanted to personally let you know that Lily scored in the 99th percentile across all testing categories." I sank into a chair. She did. She did. In fact, her composite score placed her in the top 5 students statewide applying for Brookdale's Scholars of Promise program. I couldn't speak. "We're inviting her to continue with the next phase of scholarship review. There's an essay component and a short virtual interview, but I wanted you to know that she's firmly on our shortlist. I imagine you're quite proud." I whispered, "You have no idea." After we hung up, I sat there for a moment in absolute silence. Then I ran to Lily's room like my soul had come unglued. She was already in bed, reading with a flashlight under the covers, a little habit she picked up when I started working late. "Baby," I said, breathless, oh my God, you did it." She pulled the blanket down, blinking up at me. "Did what?" "You tested into Brookdale's scholarship program. They called, you're one of the top students in the state. They want to interview you." Her eyes widened. Her book slid off the bed. "I am." I nodded, too choked up to say more. She sat up slowly, like the words needed time to land. Then she whispered, "So, that means I might really get in?" I nodded again. "Yes, baby, you really might." And just like that, she started to cry. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears that slipped down her cheeks as she hugged me. "I was scared to ask if you sent the scores," she admitted. "I didn't want to make you sad if it didn't work out." I laughed and cried at the same time. "My job is to be tired, not sad," I said into her hair. "And right now, I'm not even tired, I'm flying." We held each other for a long time, rocking gently like we used to when she was little. It was just us. Always had been. But for the first time, it felt like the world might finally see what I'd always known. Lily Caldwell was meant for more. And nothing, no selfish sister, no cold-hearted mother, was going to stop her from getting there. The campus looked like it had been plucked straight out of a movie. Tall brick buildings framed by oak trees, sunlight dappling across stone walkways, the gentle hush of a place where futures were quietly being built. Brookdale Academy didn't just look prestigious, it felt sacred. I stepped through the gates in my cleanest pair of flats, blouse ironed the best I could manage between shifts. My second-hand slacks were a little loose, and I'd borrowed a canvas tote from Jasmine because it looked more academic than my usual crossbody bag. I wasn't trying to impress them for myself, but for Lily, I would have walked in wearing armor if I thought it'd help. The admissions office was warm and bright, filled with student artwork, trophies, and photos of smiling kids on science trips and language immersion programs. There was a photo of last year's scholarship recipients mounted near the front desk, a row of proud faces holding scrolls. I stared at them, imagining Lily's face among them next year. A woman with gray curls and tortoise-shell glasses approached with a kind smile. "You must be Megan Caldwell." I stood. "Yes, thank you for having me." "I'm Principal Howard," she said, shaking my hand. "Come on in, we'll chat in my office." Her office was cozy, sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains, the air lightly scented with peppermint tea, a far cry from the cold, mechanical air of my family's judgment. "I wanted to meet you personally," she began, "because Lily's scores weren't just good. They were exceptional. But more than that, her writing samples showed maturity, curiosity, and emotional depth we rarely see in applicants her age. Pride swelled in my chest like breath after drowning. "She's always been like that," I said quietly. "Always asking questions, always noticing things most people overlook." "I can tell," Principal Howard replied. "We believe she's an excellent candidate for the Scholars of Promise Award. It's a state-sponsored scholarship that covers full tuition and additional enrichment resources, mentorships, travel stipends, learning tech." I blinked. "All of it?" She nodded. "Everything. But the final selection process is competitive. The next step is her essay and a video interview. I can give you all the guidelines and deadlines today." As she handed me the folder, I clutched it like a lifeline. Is there anything else I can do to help her? I asked. Principal Howard smiled. Just what you're already doing. Believing in her, that's where it all begins. That did it. I didn't cry. But my throat got tight in that way it does when someone says exactly the right thing at exactly the right time, and you realize how rare that is. Thank you, I whispered. Before I left, she walked me past the school's media lab, bright monitors, kids editing short films and coding apps. Then the music room, where a boy played cello with the kind of focus you can't teach. It was a whole different world, but not out of reach. Not anymore. As I walked back to the bus stop, the city looked different. It wasn't just pavement and traffic anymore, it was a path, a road Lily could actually walk down toward something real. And I promised myself right then, no matter what it costs, no matter who turns their back on me again, I will get her there. It took me 2 days to build up the nerve. I don't know what I was expecting, really. A change of heart, a sliver of pride, maybe just a moment of warmth from a woman who'd never believed in softness, only survival. Still, I called ahead. Ma, I said over the phone, keeping my voice steady. Can I stop by later, just for a little bit? Gloria paused. Depends what for, I'm not running errands. It's not that, I just want to talk. Something happened with Lily's school stuff. It's good news. Another pause. Fine, come after dinner. I don't want you showing up during wheel. Some part of me laughed at that. Some smaller part wanted to cry. When I arrived, her porch light flickered like always. The siding needed repainting. Her yard was bare except for the garden gnome Lily had painted last spring. I knocked, even though I still had a key. Gloria opened the door, half watching the TV behind her. Well, don't just stand there, you'll let the air out. I stepped in, clutching the folder Brookdale had given me. The house smelled like fried onions and old dust. Her recliner creaked as she sank back into it, remote in one hand, a cup of sweet tea in the other. So, she said without turning her head. What's this about Lily? I took a breath. She tested in the top 1% of all applicants to Brookdale. They shortlisted her for a full scholarship. Covers everything, tuition, supplies, even summer programs. Gloria's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Huh, I waited. Nothing. She's been working so hard, Ma, I continued. She wrote this essay on community gardens and education equity. She poured her heart into it. Still nothing. I just thought you'd want to know. Gloria finally looked at me, not smiling, not angry, just blank. Well, she said slowly, I guess that's good if it means you can stop throwing money into those prep school fantasies. My stomach clenched. It's not a fantasy. Lily's gifted. This could change everything for her. Gloria sipped her tea. Kids can still learn their ABCs at public school. I stood there, folder clutched so tightly my knuckles went white. I'm not asking for anything, I said quietly. I'm just trying to share something beautiful. She turned back to the screen. Not everything needs to be a big production, Megan. Some of us were raised to be practical, not precious. That one cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Precious. Like caring was weakness. Like effort was indulgence. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the lines carved deep from frowns, the set of her mouth like a trap that had closed decades ago and never let go. And I realized she didn't see Lily's potential as something worth protecting. She saw it as a threat. A mirror that showed her everything she'd never tried for, never believed she could have. I'll let you get back to your show, I said, voice tight. She didn't stop me. Didn't ask what Lily wanted to be when she grew up. Didn't even say congratulations. As I stepped onto the porch, the air felt sharp against my cheeks. I stood there for a moment, folder still pressed against my chest like armor. And I told myself something I needed to hear. You don't need her blessing to do what's right. You just need to keep going. Because Lily's dreams matter more than her grandmother's pride. If I had to choose a single image to describe that month, it would be this. Lily asleep at the kitchen table, head on a stack of books, pencil still clutched in her hand, and me beside her, wiping down countertops at midnight with a heart full of fire and fatigue. We were building something, the two of us. Not just an application. A lifeline. Lily's essays became our nightly ritual. I would read her drafts after my second shift, hunched over with aching feet, sipping instant coffee to stay awake while she perched on a stool beside me, eager for feedback. Do you think I sound too braggy here? She'd ask, chewing her pencil. I didn't mean to make the cleanup project sound like my idea. It was everyone's. I shook my head. It's not bragging if it's true. Just make sure to show how you worked with others. That's what they care about, leadership, kindness, teamwork. She nodded solemnly, scribbling notes, more serious than most adults I know. And when the house went quiet, when the dishes were done and the floor was swept, I'd change into a hoodie and head out again, this time with keys to an office building downtown. My new night job wasn't glamorous. It paid just enough to cover groceries, rent, and bus fare with the little extra Jasmine's loan had given me. I scrubbed floors and emptied trash cans in silence, sometimes humming to myself just to stay awake. It was the kind of work no one notices, but I didn't care, because every dollar meant one more step between Lily and settling for less. Sometimes, in that quiet office at 2 a.m., I'd pause by the big glass windows and look out over Charlotte's skyline. All those glowing towers, all that ambition buzzing in boardrooms and banks, and somewhere, I imagined, was someone else just like me. Someone scrubbing their way toward hope. By the third week, Lily had finished her essay, 5 carefully polished paragraphs that read like a love letter to learning and community. It was earnest, funny, sharp in the best ways. We recorded her video interview next. She wore her blue ribbon, a button-up shirt we'd ironed flat with a borrowed steamer, and a wide, nervous smile. "Remember," I said from behind the camera, "look right into the lens. Tell them what makes you come alive." She nodded, her hands tucked neatly into her lap. And when the recording light blinked on, something clicked inside her. She spoke with quiet confidence, describing her favorite science experiment, her dream of becoming an environmental engineer, and how she wanted to help kids in neighborhoods like mine believe they can do hard things. I bit my lip to keep from crying. After we sent it off, I printed a small calendar and taped it above her bed. We crossed off each day with a purple marker. Waiting wasn't easy. Every time the mail arrived, Lily's eyes flicked to the door. Every phone call made her sit up straighter, but there was something new in her now, not just hope, but ownership. She had worked for this, shaped it with her own hands. That mattered no matter the outcome. One night, as we curled up on the couch exhausted but content, she rested her head against my shoulder. "Do you think Grandma Gloria will ever care about Brookdale?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then said the truest thing I could. "I think some people don't understand big dreams because they gave up on theirs a long time ago. That doesn't make yours any smaller, baby." She nodded, thoughtful. "Then I'll dream big enough for both of us." And in that moment, I knew, no matter what letter came in the mail, no matter what test score or scholarship board decided, we'd already won something far more valuable. We believed in each other, and we weren't backing down. It happened on a Wednesday. I was on my lunch break at the diner, checking my bank app like I did every day, a nervous habit, really. I wasn't expecting surprises. My night cleaning check had just posted. The math should have worked, but the numbers didn't. My balance read, $0. I blinked, then blinked again. I checked the activity log, scrolling furiously. There it was, hold, pending account freeze, under a flag I'd never seen before. Some note about a security review involving joint ownership irregularities. My hands started to sweat. No. I called the bank immediately, practically sprinting outside to get better signal. After being bounced through 3 departments, a calm-voiced rep finally explained. "Yes, ma'am, the account in question was flagged due to conflicting documentation related to a secondary account holder, and Ashley Simmons." Ashley, my sister. I felt the world tilt beneath me. "She hasn't been on my account in years," I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "That was a family emergency account. It should have been closed or separated." The rep apologized. "It looks like it was never fully closed on the back end, and a recent transaction attempt under her name triggered a mismatch in access permissions. It auto-flagged the system. Standard security lock. How long until it's resolved? I can't say for sure, but normally 5 to 7 business days for verification. You'll need to come in with ID, fill out a release, and have her removed again." 5 to 7 days? That was a lifetime in scholarship terms. Lily's final paperwork was due in 4. And the processing fee, just $50, but still 50 more than I had to be submitted with it. My breath came shallow. I stared at the street, cars rolling by, life moving forward while I stood stuck. One clerical mistake, one unresolved name from the past, and the whole future I was building for Lily started to shake loose at the seams. I called Ashley next. Straight to voicemail. Called again? Nothing. Texted, "Call me." "This is urgent." No reply. I knew she wouldn't. Why would she? She'd gotten her trip, her laughs, her smugness, and left me to clean up the mess. I wanted to scream, to punch a wall. But instead, I walked back into the diner, nodded at Jasmine like I hadn't just watched my entire financial structure collapse, and took another table's order for 2 cheeseburgers and a milkshake, because that's what working mothers do. They fall apart in private and smile in public. That night, I didn't tell Lily. I couldn't. Instead, I paced the apartment once she'd gone to bed, trying to think. Could I hawk my microwave, return groceries, beg the school for more time? Everything felt fragile, like we were holding our future together with duct tape and whispered prayers. At midnight, I opened my laptop and stared at the application page. The payment box blinked like an insult. $50 and 4 days. That was all that stood between Lily and the chance she'd earned. And right now, I had neither. The next morning, I must have looked worse than I felt, which is saying something. Jasmine didn't ask what was wrong right away. She just handed me a coffee, no cream, 2 sugars, and tapped the crook of my elbow gently before sliding behind the counter. That's her language. Quiet kindness. But later, during our 5-minute break behind the diner, she lit a cigarette and watched me fidget with my phone for a minute before finally asking, "Okay, who do I need to punch?" I laughed, dry and tired. "Ashley. Figures." She took a drag. "What now?" I didn't want to tell her, I really didn't. Not because I didn't trust her, but because there's a special kind of shame that comes from asking for help when you've spent your whole life trying to be the helper. But I told her anyway. About the bank account. The freeze, the deadline, the stupid $50 that might cost Lily her entire future. I tried to make it sound funny. Light. Like it was just a bump. Jasmine didn't laugh. She just stared at me, then flicked her cigarette away like it had insulted her. "You're not gonna let this die over $50, she said. "I don't have it, Jazz." "Yeah, but I do." I opened my mouth to argue, but she held up a hand. "No guilt speech. No, I'll pay you back in blood promises. You do it for me. This is what people do, Megan. Real people. Not the ones who take your money and buy Disneyland ears with it. The ones who see you." My throat closed up. "I don't like owing people." "Well, tough," she said. "Because you're gonna owe me exactly $50 and a hug." I pressed my lips together, trying to keep it together, but it was no use. The tears came anyway, slipping past whatever wall I'd tried to build. Jasmine just pulled me into a hug. No fanfare, no pity, just her arms around me in the cold. "You're not alone," she said quietly. "You never were, you just forgot." By that afternoon, the fee was paid. The confirmation email hit my inbox like a victory song. Application complete. All documents received. Review in progress. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for 2 days. That night, I told Lily. She looked up from her math workbook, wide-eyed. "You sent it?" "All of it," I said. "It's done. And now we wait." She grinned, and something about that smile, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way she exhaled like she hadn't even realized she was nervous, made every bruise, every shift, every insult, every tear worth it. We made popcorn, curled up on the couch, and watched one of those old-school nature documentaries where the narrator talks in a whisper like he's afraid to wake the grass. At one point, Lily leaned over, rested her head against my arm, and whispered, "Do you think they'll choose me?" I kissed the top of her head. I already did. And that night, for the first time in what felt like months, I slept without waking up in a panic, because I wasn't alone anymore, and neither was she. The envelope arrived on a Thursday, tucked between a grocery store flyer and a pre-approved credit card ad. It was thick, embossed. Brookdale Academy printed in crisp navy at the top corner. I held it like it might vanish. Lily wasn't home yet. She had her after-school writing club, so I waited. Every nerve in my body told me to tear it open and devour the words inside. But this wasn't my letter to read alone. This was ours. When she walked in an hour later, backpack slung over one shoulder, cheeks pink from the cold, I met her at the door without saying a word, just held up the envelope. Her eyes widened. She didn't ask. She just stared at it, then slowly reached for it with both hands. We sat together on the couch, knees touching. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the flap open. She unfolded the pages inside, scanning quickly, lips moving as she read. Then she froze. She looked up at me and smiled so wide I thought her heart might burst out of her chest. "I got it," she whispered. "Mom, I got it." I couldn't breathe. She shoved the letter into my hands, pointing with ink-stained fingers. "Full scholarship. They want me to join the honor circle, and they said my essay's going to be published in their spring review." My eyes blurred instantly. There are moments in life where time stops, not out of fear or grief, but out of sheer, soul-deep joy. This was one of those. I pulled her into my arms, and we stayed like that for a long time. No words, just laughter tangled with tears, the quiet sobs of a mother who had clawed her way through silence, shame, and exhaustion to give her daughter a different ending than the one she'd been handed. That night, we made pancakes for dinner, sprinkles and whipped cream and no rules. We danced barefoot to the radio, the floor sticky with syrup, our voices hoarse from laughing. But I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I didn't call Gloria, didn't text Ashley, didn't post about it online. Because sometimes victory doesn't need to be broadcast. Sometimes it just needs to be held close, warm against your chest, beating like a secret the world hasn't earned yet. We placed the letter in a frame from the dollar store and set it on Lily's desk, next to her blue ribbon and the glitter pen she used to edit her essay drafts. Christmas was 3 days away. We had no decorations, no fancy dinner planned, but I had something I hadn't felt in a long, long time: peace. I knew what was coming: the dinner at Gloria's house, the same sharp-edged tension wrapped in casserole dishes and passive-aggressive conversation. Ashley would be there, loud and smug. Gloria would pretend everything was normal. But this time, I wasn't walking in empty-handed. I wasn't the poor sister with big dreams and no backup. I had proof now. Proof that belief, when paired with persistence, is louder than doubt. I didn't need to gloat. I just needed to walk in, stand tall, and let the truth speak for itself. Christmas dinner at Gloria's was exactly what I expected: beige casseroles, red wine in mismatched glasses, and the kind of cheer that comes with teeth. Lily sat beside me, her dress neatly pressed, hair curled gently at the ends. She clutched her sketchbook in her lap, drawing snowflakes and Saturn rings, while the adults filled the room with noise that sounded like celebration, but smelled like comparison. Ashley was already 2 glasses in when we arrived, loud and glowing with the kind of confidence that never seemed to require permission. Her boys were sprawled in the den playing video games. Gloria handed me a tray of rolls without eye contact. "So glad you could make it, Megan," Ashley said with a tight smile. "Hope your little genius doesn't get bored. You know how she is about books." I smiled mildly. "She brought her own." "Oh good," Ashley went on. "Because my boys, bless them, are having such a hard time this year. The teachers just don't know how to handle boys with energy anymore. It's all sit still and memorize, as if that's learning." I kept my voice calm. "Maybe they just need the right challenge." Ashley scoffed. "Not every kid needs to be in some elite school to be smart, Megan." I let that one float in the air. Gloria chimed in from the stove. "Back in my day, we didn't need enrichment programs and scholarships. We learned our ABCs just fine without computers and yoga in schools." Lily shifted beside me, glancing up with wide eyes. I reached for my purse, pulled out the envelope, not the original, the copy I'd made, tucked neatly into a red folder. Without a word, I slid it down the table toward Ashley. She blinked. "What's this?" "Something I wanted to share," I said. She opened it slowly. Her eyes skimmed, froze, her jaw slackened. Full academic scholarship, honor circle, top percentile statewide, and in Lily's own handwriting, a thank you letter to the scholarship committee, included in the packet, simple and sincere. "Thank you for seeing me the way my mom always has." The room went quiet. Gloria set down the gravy boat with a soft clink. Ashley's smile flickered, then disappeared entirely. "Wow," she said finally, voice brittle. That's great." I looked at her calmly. "It is." She pushed the folder back toward me like it burned her fingers. "Well, good for you, I guess. Some people just get lucky." I tilted my head. "Luck has nothing to do with it. Lily earned every bit of this." Gloria didn't say a word. She sat down, buttered her roll, and looked away. But Lily sat up straighter. And when Ashley muttered something under her breath about not needing a fancy award to prove anything, Lily, my sweet, soft-voiced girl, looked across the table and said quietly, "I didn't need it to prove anything. I just needed it to go somewhere I could grow." The silence after that felt holy. Dinner resumed, but something had shifted. No one sneered again. No one made a comment. The rest of the evening passed with shallow smiles and tense conversation, but it didn't matter. Because for the first time in that house, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. After dessert, as we gathered our coats, Gloria finally spoke. She didn't look at me when she said it. "Congratulations, Lily." Lily blinked. "Thank you, Grandma." That was all. Outside, the air was cold but fresh. Lily took my hand as we walked to the car. "I was nervous," she admitted. "But it felt good." I nodded. "Pride doesn't have to be loud." She smiled up at me. "We're gonna be okay, aren't we?" I squeezed her hand. "More than okay." And as we drove home, I looked at her in the rearview mirror, sketchbook in her lap, nose pink from the chill. She didn't just get into Brookdale. She changed the narrative of who we were allowed to be, not because anyone gave us permission, but because we stopped waiting for it.